I'm Betsy, and this is CAM Matters. Come join us today as Suzanne and I talk about the collapse of the building in South Florida and what that might mean for future boards and their preventative maintenance plan.
Welcome to CAM Matters, Condos, Co-ops, HOAs, and beyond. Betsy Barbieux is an informational leader in Florida on community association living, rights, and obligations. She is an expert on the rights and obligations of owners as well as the association. If you live or are planning to live in the state of Florida, there's a good chance you'll be part of a community association. And by the end of this show, you'll know a little bit more about community associations and why they matter.
Welcome to the show. I'm Suzanne Lynn with Betsy Barbieux, and today we're speaking about a topic that's really difficult because less than a week ago, Surfside Condo collapsed in southern Miami. And first of all, we're just so sorry about the loss of life.
Condolences.
Absolutely. The second thing is we want to just say that we're not saying anything on behalf of them. We're legally, we're just going to speak kind of generally. But it's such an important thing that happened, and I think there's so many lessons to be learned that we needed to kind of do an emergency show on this, specifically with Betsy. So Betsy, welcome. What a horrible situation. But wow, do we have a lot to learn from this?
We will have a lot to learn. Not a lot can be said until the cause or causes are discovered, but they won't do a lot of that until the recovery is over.
So I guess to start off, the owners, we think, voted to not do repairs. I mean, what was, and generally speaking, when that's a situation, when there's a repair report that comes back, let's speak to that.
And that's a rumor, as far as I know, that's a rumor. And generally, and I haven't waved these in front of you in a long time.
It's been a while.
But it would be odd. It would be unusual based on the documents for the owners to be voting on repairs.
Okay.
That would be odd. That's a board responsibility. The board should use professionals to guide them in knowing what needs to be repaired, offer the specifications for how those repairs should be made, a timeline for when the repairs should be made, and then the board would seek bids for that repair. In most community associations, making the decision for repairs, the repairs decision is the board decision.
It's not the owner's.
It's not the owner's decision. The payment for the repairs, hopefully, is covered with their reserves. There are a lot of communities, and I hear of these especially in South Florida, that waive the funding of those reserves, so they don't have the money to make the repairs. But if the repairs have to be made and they don't have the money, then the board generally is authorized to impose a special assessment on the owners. That may be a vote of the owners. And again, I'm going to waive these. It depends on what the documents say. Tell us what those are again. These are our documents.
Right.
Our declaration, our articles, and bylaws.
Okay.
And this is, plus statute, is what we have to follow. Boards are not supposed to make arbitrary decisions. And sometimes good best business practice decisions are okay, but they still may be contradictory to the documents. So it depends on what the documents say. I don't know what those documents said. I do know it was a condominium. There were reports that it was a co-op. It is not. And that just tells me that the reporter who said that came from up north and doesn't understand.
Florida is a very different animal as far as co-ops, HOAs, condos. Now, let's say as an owner, because a lot of the shows that we've done for years has been about the relationship of owners, board members, association, and the responsibility. What if the board was presented with repairs that are needed and they don't...
If the board was presented with repairs that were needed and they didn't do them, that would be a violation of their fiduciary duty. And boards often will shy away from those big ticket decisions, and they can't. And I don't know if that's what happened here. I have no idea. I have no idea. I hear of reports of roof repairs, $15 million roof repair. That's chump change. That I don't know what they were doing for $15 million, but that's not that big of a price tag for a roof repair. Now, buildings that are on the coast should be reserving for concrete restoration and balcony restoration. The salt air eats all of that. And
it's stuff that you can't see.
And you can't see it.
So it's
right.
not fun or sexy to put money towards it.
And you don't think of replacing concrete.
Right.
You think of replacing paint or repaving the parking lot or resurfacing the pool, but somehow people think concrete is invincible and it's permanent. It is not, and especially it is not on the coast. So you have to save money for replacing the concrete.
But it's a big responsibility for the board to say to their owners, I mean, they're volunteers in most cases.
Well, they are volunteers in all cases.
In all cases. We have to put out multiple millions of dollars. They have to face now their neighbors and their friends and say, I mean...
I'm going to assess you for $1 million per person.
Right. How do you... And now we see the importance of that.
Yes.
You just said $1 million per person. That just sunk in.
Yeah.
And it's not for things that the neighbors can see.
Right.
But until now, was there importance?
Was there an
understanding?
The unseen is as important. This is why we've had a show in the past with Anastasia Klodzik, expert inspectors, who is our reserve study specialist. She looks at stuff like that. She sees the things that you can't see that need to be reserved for. We've had shows with Mark Kramer, the engineer from Vigilant Services, who helps identify the building envelope issues, and he can videograph those over time so that you can see defects as they form. And we're going to have a show with him on this subject coming up.
And it is very different that we're in Florida.
Yes.
The environment, the salt
we build
air,
on sand.
Right, absolutely.
We build on sand.
So this is going to be at a whole new attention, a whole new level of understanding, and maybe another level of awareness.
And again, going back to the board is supposed to fund the budget and the reserves for all the monies that are needed, not only for daily operations, but for future replacement. It is hard for boards to see saving for a balcony that needs to be replaced in 30 years when they feel like they're not going to even be alive in 30 years. You'll hear board members say, I don't buy green bananas.
Oh, wow.
They don't think in that sense. But the argument is, but you're using the balcony now, you're using the concrete now, you're using the roof now. It might last beyond your life expectancy, but you need to pay for the time that you're using it.
You may be saving somebody's life because of the wear and tear you're putting on it. Right.
It looks like you'll be saving somebody's life.
Yeah.
But it sounds cruel, it sounds kind of trite, but when you move into a community association, whether it's a condominium, cooperative, or homeowner association, you are signing a blank check that says, I will pay my share of whatever it takes to operate this community on a daily basis and to reserve for future capital expenditures and deferred maintenance expenses, like concrete, replacing balconies, rebar. In the roof, a lot of roofs are this post-tension roof, and they have cables holding the roof together. If one of those cables snaps, there goes your roof. So you've got to maintain, and you can't see any of that. And, and especially they have these on the flat roofs. And you can't see that. Those have to be inspected. You've got to have professional people, not Joe from Alabama who used to do roofs there. You've got to have professional people who are Florida people to inspect your roofs, your concrete, your balconies, your pools, your pool liners. A lot of these have garages underneath the buildings. Be sure that you're not seeing any stalactites coming down from the ceilings because that's going to indicate moisture is coming in somewhere. You need to stop that moisture. Moisture eats concrete.
So I guess I'm trying to dive in also on the communication. Let's say that you've got a board made up of people who don't want to spend the money. They don't want to face their neighbors, say that we're assessing you for $1 million a person or whatever. But let's even say every owner is for the repairs. Ultimately, it's up to the board to vote. I mean, this is a huge responsibility.
But the power is in the people. They can choose a different board. The power is in the people by choosing a different board. But you know what we're not going to get after this?
What's that?
Is volunteer board members. Who wants to be a volunteer board member in a 40-year-old building?
And possibly have blood on their hands for things that can happen. I
you
mean,
know,
in this extreme case.
I don't know that it's blood on their hands. But, and again, I don't know that the board failed to do anything.
Okay.
I don't know that there was any neglect on the board's part. All we hear are little bits and pieces of news, and I don't think we know that the board failed to do anything.
Right.
I don't think that at all.
Okay.
It could just be a building was built on sand.
Okay.
And shifting sand. I think there's some scripture about that.
Right.
But the building was built on sand. It could be that the board received reports and did nothing. It could be that they didn't.
Okay.
It could be that they were in the process of issuing a special assessment and getting the loan and getting the bids. I don't know. Those kinds of reports we're not hearing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not hearing those. But I do know that there are communities in South Florida that don't reserve. There are communities here in Central Florida that don't reserve. The owners vote to, now the owners have to vote to waive the reserves, the collecting of them.
Okay.
The owners have to do that. The board has to propose it to them and say, this is the amount we need.
Okay.
But the owners are the only ones who can vote to waive or reduce that funding.
So what is the story? What do we need to learn from this? Is the foundational story that we need to make sure that there are reserves and they're being used?
Boards need to. We're going to take a step further back than that. Boards need to make sure that they are using professionals and not cheap out.
Okay.
And that you're using professionals to help you understand the life expectancy of not only the roofing, paving, and painting, but there are things that you cannot see in a building that need to be accounted for and replaced on a schedule. Mm-hmm. Your professionals, your concrete professionals, your balcony professionals, rebar professionals, roof professionals, elevator, fire suppression systems professionals, HVAC, cooling tower, all those professionals of things that are hard to see, pool liners, that's under the pool, those kinds of things. You need to hire professionals to help you assess the life expectancy of those components and the expected replacement cost. So if there's a life expectancy of 10 years left on a component, then what's the estimated cost of what it will be to replace it or repair it? And then you save incrementally each year for that. It just seems like a no-brainer to save a little bit along, instead of saying pay a lot later. You can either pay a little bit now as an owner, and you do need to be paying your share while you're using those components, whether you think you're going to live that long or not. You need to pay for your share of living there. And now it looks like it could be to help future owners and preserve life.
Yeah. All right, let's break here and come right back.
Are you ready for a new career? Do you have skills or interest in management, real estate, construction, maintenance, accounting, strategic planning, project management, budgets, human resource management, lawn and landscaping, pool services, or any other expertise needed to operate a community association? If you do, community association management could be for you. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at Betsy at floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Florida Community Association management continues to grow. Career opportunities abound.
Welcome back to the show, a really special show as we are using the Surfside condo collapse as a foundation of what we're discussing today. And that's really the heart of why Betsy's doing these shows, is about communication and understanding responsibilities of the board and association and owners and how that all works. And you know, Betsy, we're so sorry. I mean, we can't stress that enough, the loss of life. But things that we can learn from this, I'm hearing from the first portion of the show, prevention, getting professionals that are very familiar with Florida, the environment and Florida, and actually having reserves and listening to what the reports are and acting on them.
Boards might be hesitant because of the price, but owners need to be more involved, and owners need to ask more questions. Purchasers, before they buy.
What kind of questions?
You know, I've only ever had a prospective buyer call me one time and say, is this community in good financial health? Do they have reserves?
Wow.
I've only ever had one.
Wow.
And those are things that owners, potential buyers, don't think of. This is a multi-million-dollar corporation. Multi-million-dollar corporations sometimes are in good health financially, and sometimes they're not. And one of the things that I think might be an indicator of not good health is not having reserves for all of the components. And you know, the statute requires reserves for roofing, paving, painting, and anything that is more than $10,000 to replace or repair, which means pretty much just about everything in a building it needs to be reserved for. The duty of the board would be to find all of those things. Now, most of them are not structural engineers, so they need to hire a specialist, an engineer, general contractor, engineer type person, company, to come and inspect the community. One community here locally had about 60 items on their reserve study that was created for them 30 years ago. They had an update, and the reserve study specialist found 100 more components that they should have been reserving for.
So, as we start to wrap up the show, you are, and I don't want to embarrass you, but you are the brand leader of HOA, condo, co-op, association expert. I can't think of anyone better to ask, if you were to purchase a condo in, let's say, Southern Florida, getting it real close to the situation, what type of things would you be looking at and asking now?
Well, first I'd want to read their documents. I would want to look for who votes on the budget. Does the board vote on the budget, which is probably 95% of the time, or does the membership get a vote? I would want to see their reserves. I would want to know if they are involved in any pending litigation. Think about that. It's a corporation. They get sued. Wouldn't you want to know as a potential buyer if they're involved in any potential litigation? Because if there is a money judgment award against the association, guess who pays?
The owners.
The owners pay their fair share.
Are you allowed to ask as a potential buyer for reports, like structural reports? If you go, all right, based on what you can't.
There is a form called Frequently Asked Questions and Answer Sheet that is required to be given to purchasers of condominiums.
Okay, but not specific.
And co-ops.
Okay.
But not HOA. But all it's going to tell you is your voting rights, your assessment, if you're paying monies for any leaseholds, and if there's pending litigation. Structural reports and those items, any owner can ask for those. An owner can make a records
request. Once you've purchased.
Well, and I'm thinking the seller could make that request on behalf of a purchaser.
Okay.
But any owner would have the opportunity to make a records request for particular documents. Not just a blanket, give me all your documents, that won't work. And the association has 10 business days within which to set an appointment for you to come in and look at those documents.
I think that's really a
And
great thing.
I think there will be legislation probably that adds those kinds of reports to the website that has a owner portal,
Yeah.
so that owners can access those online
Yeah.
and have that kind of information available if a purchaser wants them. But when you move into a community association, you do sign a blank check.
Yeah.
So if there's a special assessment for a balcony restoration or concrete restoration and your share is $100,000,
Get ready to pay.
get ready to pay.
Betsy, thank you so much. What an amazing show. Packed with information and so timely. Thank you for what you do. Yeah.
And again, our condolences.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to CAM Matters. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Information provided on this show is general in nature and does not constitute legal advice. Please contact a licensed attorney for your specific situation.